Chapter 38. Then Shephatiah the son of Mattan, and Gedaliah the son of Pashur, and Jucal the son of Shelemiah, and Pashur the son of Malchiah heard the words that Jeremiah had spoken unto all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, He that remaineth in this city shall die by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence. But he that goeth forth to the Chaldeans shall live, for he shall have his life for a prey, and shall live. Thus saith the Lord, The city shall surely be given into the hand of the king of Babylon's army, which shall take it. Therefore the princes said unto the king, We beseech thee, let this man be put to death. For thus he weakeneth the hands of the men of war that remain in this city, and the hands of all the people, in speaking such words unto them. For this man seeketh not the welfare of this people, but the hurt. Then Zedekiah the king said, Behold, he is in your hand, for the king is not he that can do anything against you. Then they took Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon of Malchiah the son of Hamelech, that was in the court of the prison. And they let down Jeremiah with cords, and in the dungeon there was no water, but mire. So Jeremiah sunk into the mire. Now when Ebed-melech the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs which was in the king's house, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon, the king then sitting in the gate of Benjamin, Ebed-melech went forth out of the king's house, and spake to the king, saying, My lord the king, these men have done evil in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet, whom they have cast into the dungeon, and he is like to die for hunger in the place where he is, for there is no bread in the city. Then the king commanded Ebed-melech the Ethiopian, saying, Take from thence 30 men with thee, and take up Jeremiah the prophet out of the dungeon before he die. So Ebed-melech took the men with him, and went into the house of the king under the treasury, and took thence old cast clouts and old rotten rags, and let them down by cords into the dungeon to Jeremiah. And Ebed-melech the Ethiopian said unto Jeremiah, Put now these old cast clouts and rotten rags under thine armholes, under the cords. And Jeremiah did so. So they drew up Jeremiah with cords, and took him out of the dungeon, and Jeremiah remained in the court of the prison. Then Zedekiah the king sent, took Jeremiah the prophet unto him into the third entry, that is in the house of the Lord. And the king said to Jeremiah, I will ask thee a thing, hide nothing from me. Then Jeremiah said unto Zedekiah, If I declare it unto thee, wilt thou not surely put me to death? And if I give thee counsel, wilt thou not hearken unto me? So Zedekiah the king sware secretly unto Jeremiah, saying, As the Lord liveth, that made us this soul, I will not put thee to death, neither will I give thee into the hand of these men that seek thy life. Then said Jeremiah unto Zedekiah, Thus saith the Lord, the God of hosts, the God of Israel, If thou wilt assuredly go forth unto the king of Babylon's princes, then thy soul shall live, and this city shall not be burned with fire, and thou shalt live, and thine house. But if thou wilt not go forth to the king of Babylon's princes, then shall this city be given into the hand of the Chaldeans, and they shall burn it with fire, and thou shalt not escape out of their hand. And Zedekiah the king said unto Jeremiah, I am afraid of the Jews that are fallen to the Chaldeans, lest they deliver me into their hand, and they mock me. But Jeremiah said, They shall not deliver thee. Obey, I beseech thee, the voice of the Lord, which I speak unto thee. So it shall be well unto thee, and thy soul shall live. But if thou refuse to go forth, this is the word that the Lord has shewed me. And behold, all the women that are left in the king of Judah's house shall be brought forth to the king of Babylon's princes, and those women shall say, Thy friends have set thee on, and have prevailed against thee. Thy feet are sunk in the mire, and they are turned away back. So they shall bring out all thy wives and thy children to the Chaldeans, and thou shalt not escape out of their hand, but shalt be taken by the hand of the king of Babylon, and thou shalt cause this city to be burned with fire. Then said Zedekiah unto Jeremiah, Let no man know of these words, and thou shalt not die. But if the princes hear that I have talked with thee, and they come unto thee, and say unto thee, Declare unto us now what thou hast said unto the king, hide it not from us, and we will not put thee to death. Also what the king said unto thee, then thou shalt say unto them, I presented my supplication before the king, that he would not cause me to return to Jonathan's house to die there. Then came all the princes unto Jeremiah, and asked him, and he told them according to all the words that the king had commanded. So they left off speaking with him, for the matter was not perceived. So Jeremiah abode in the court of the prison until the day that Jerusalem was taken, and he was there when Jerusalem was taken. Again, this is not quite in order here, but we're making progress towards Nebuchadnezzar capturing Jerusalem. That happens in the next chapter. The people who are the princes, the ones who are looking after the defense, I suppose, of Jerusalem to some extent, those nobles who have the most to lose, basically hear the sort of thing that Baruch would have read to the people, or that Jeremiah would have said to the people. And they go to King Zedekiah and they said he weakens the hands of the people. That means he sort of, he's like a traitor. He is making sure that these people don't really want to fight because they're going to figure that all is lost anyway. So why should they get themselves killed? Because they're going to go to the Chaldeans, and basically if they want to surrender and go out, they'll be alive. But if they stay, they're going to get killed. It's pretty hard to fight under that kind of thing and that kind of premise. And so they basically want him killed, if they could get him killed. But basically they wind up putting him in this dungeon. Now, and they let him down by cords. That means there was the only way you could get out would be if somebody would let down cords to lift you out. There was no way that you could climb out. That means it was steep sides. There was a doorway or window up top, and probably 30 to 50 feet down was the bottom of this thing. Now it said there was no water in there, but mire, which means muck. And so he could have been in mud that was a foot deep or waist deep or whatever. And it could have been a place where they kept animals and had a door to get out, but which was locked from the outside. But if that had been the case, then they wouldn't have had to let him down. They could have simply put him in. So it looks like this was a spot you put people to die. And then this fellow who was a servant of the king, a eunuch, basically says, went to the king, and he said to the king, who didn't know what these men had done, told him what had happened, and also give us a key to let us know how difficult the problems were. He said he was going to die because he was going to starve to death because there was no more bread in the city. There was no more grain to make any more bread. There was nobody who would be able to take bread, make bread, or take bread to Jeremiah. And none for anybody else either. So they had exhausted the entire food supply. It was just a matter of time before Nebuchadnezzar would be in, because the city would have to surrender, or they would have to try and attack and get away, whatever. So just to show you how careful Zedekiah was, because he understood who he was dealing with, he told this eunuch to get 30 guys, which is a lot more guys than originally came to Zedekiah to say, we want to put this guy in the dungeon. Take 30 men with you. And he takes some pads, cloth, old rotten cloth, that could be put underneath Zedekiah or Jeremiah's armpits, and they let down cords, lift him up. And for the rest of the siege, Jeremiah is in the courtyard. He's up on ground level. He is in the courtyard of the prison. And he's there when Nebuchadnezzar takes the city.